States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we do the roll call, please?
Mrs. Aquavita. Dr. Anderson. Here. Mrs. Caldwell. Here. Mr. Colson.
Here.
Mr. Kolar. Mrs. Rosler. Here. Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Mr. Schlock.
Here.
Mr. Zuko.
Here.
And Maria Zura.
Here.
All right, thank you. The board met in executive session on September 9th, 2019 to discuss matters of litigation, safety, personnel, and real estate. At this time, I'd like to invite any citizens' comments on the agenda items. Seeing none, let's move into the agenda. Personnel committee was just discussed in executive session. Student Achievement and Activities Committee, Dr. Anderson, chairperson.
I think we have educational updates coming from Dr. Walsh. Are you starting with Mr.
Yeah, I'll
White?
start. And then I think Mr. Official's going to do the 9 through 12. Just quickly, in regards to updates that we talked about last year that are now in place for students, just technology, K to 8, new iPads, K to 3. Grade 4 has one-to-one devices that are staying in the building. Grades 5 through 8 have Chromebooks that are take-home. And our K-4 buildings have new interactive display boards. We also been working with our K-12 faculty on curriculum mapping. Last year we started this process of working in our vertical teams, building common language, and really raising what is actually being taught in our classrooms. We had the teachers work on their calendar activities, and what we determined is that you can have teachers right across from each other or in different buildings, for instance, algebra at O Block or at the high school, or at Center and Pivot, teaching two different things. So we are determining what is a Plum Borough education, and we are mapping that out. And every vertical team member is on board with this. It's something that we started with defining units, duration, learning goals, resources, and looking at assessments. Do we have common assessments of what we expect our kids to know and be able to do? K6 updates, M-Class has been rolled out. I will tell you Mrs. Fight has done a tremendous job in working with our assessment team. Part of their assessment team is Dr. Hershey, the school psychologist, and Mr. Laletta. We trained everybody last year so that we could roll it out, and Center would be a good example. Last year at Center Elementary, it took 2 weeks to assess our students and 1 week to upload the information. We were able to accomplish that in 2 days. So that means more time in front of kids working on interventions and supporting our students. And I'll talk a little bit more about that during presentation later. Dr. Anderson, a concern that you brought up last year was, while we were rolling out these Chromebooks, about making sure our kids are educated in regards to how to properly use them and use them as an educational tool. Taking that to heart, we really, when we're looking at staffing, looked at how we could bring that back. And in grades 3 through 6, the kids have library classroom, or library. There's many reasons we look to bring that back. One is obviously the Chromebooks, but 2, Plum Borough is a common sense media district. And if we did not continue that this year, we would lose that designation. So Dr. Shulo has been working with the librarians in regards to, we don't want to bring back just a library where you're checking out books. We want 21st century of what a library looks like in today. And some of the ideas that have been floated around, we have a very creative faculty, with CIRCLE, Center for Research and Literacy Experiences, which better captures what is happening in our libraries today. To balance that, we have literacy blocks for our 1st and 2nd grade teachers. They still have opportunities like they have in the past to get library books, but we have a teacher pushing into the classroom in order to teach before, during, after reading strategies and give our kids the skills to be successful readers. So that was added this year. At Center, as you're aware, the Learning Garden is blooming, and there's a lot of produce being developed there. The donation from the PTA at Pivot, the STEM materials are starting to become rolled out. At Holiday Park, they're working with the Elk County Visitor Bureau on trout in the classroom. And Dr. Shulo has also expanded the availability of Discovery Period. As you recall, last year it didn't start till the second 9 weeks. That will be up and running the week of September 16th, probably around the 18th, somewhere around there. So kids were going to jump into those experiences right away, and there's a lot of wonderful opportunities for them. O-Block has added a collaboration room, which is very similar to the room behind me. Alex the teachers have been trained, and it has been rolled out. A comment Mr. Laletta shared with me today was a teacher realized that the concept she was going to teach, the kids in her class already mastered the concept by looking at the Alex data, and realized that she could take a deeper dive into the material and adjusted the pacing accordingly, which means we're meeting the needs of our kids because we have better data at O-Block. CDTs will be rolled out also this year in ELA, math, and science. It will be deployed during a 2-hour delay schedule 3 times per year. And that data will be valuable for classroom teachers to see how kids are meeting or how kids are progressing towards standards. And they also added an additional sensory room. So that's the K-8 educational updates. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. That's wonderful, thank you.
I'm just gonna step up here if you don't mind.
You good, buddy?
What's that? Sure, absolutely. It was a very smooth start to the school year this year at the high school. We have a lot going on. We have 8 sport teams that seasons are underway with over 372 student athletes. All of our seniors have had their senior pictures taken and are ready for the yearbook. Plum High School welcomed 5 new faculty members this year: Mr. Dinga, Mr. Bagaitis, Mrs. Schoen, Mrs. Doty, and Mrs. Venanzi. We are waiting for our summer Keystone results. We had over 58 students come up for our summer review this summer and then take the summer Keystones. We've got some new extracurricular activities starting. Our wellness center is underway. Students go down for supervised weightlifting in the fitness center, and our intramural program is getting ready to start up. We have 13 8th graders here taking Algebra 2 and French 1 first period. Right now we have 23 college and high school courses that are being offered here at the high school. A little bit later, once the students all register for their credits, we'll have an idea of how many students are involved in that. But we have 23 classes that are being offered for college credit. Our school-wide positive behavior program is underway. We're handing out our purple passes, and students are being recognized for positive behavior. Awards are handed out, including eating lunch in the courtyard, gift cards, and the principal's parking spot. October 1st, all of our students will participate in an assembly. It's called SOAR Dunk Tour. It's a dynamic assembly where they come in, they go into the gym, and they do this trampoline dunking, and then they talk to the kids about making good personal choices. September 19th is our open house. During open house, our college fair will take place in the cafeteria. At this point in time, we have over 62 colleges that are going to be represented. We're really excited about that. Parents can go in during open house and get information from these schools. September 20th, Plumboro High School is hosting the first Response Military Veteran Recognition football game, where there'll be some tailgating, and military folks and first responders and vets will get in free, and there'll be some tailgating before, where there'll be our guests. With attendance,
Can I
yes,
interrupt you?
yeah, absolutely, sir.
And their families?
And their families, yes, sir. The vets and responders, military folks and their families will be part of that. They're welcome, and we're really looking forward to it. I would tell you that attendance at the football game is up. Football games are up. Last week, it was standing room only. It
Parking
was
was
exciting.
crazy.
What's that?
Parking was crazy.
Yes, it was. But it was an exciting environment. We had over 300 kids at our student section. We had midget recognition night, so all the little ones were here. It was with Franklin Regional, so they brought a lot of folks. The bands were dueling it out. It was a wonderful, wonderful environment. We were excited about that. Safety is our primary concern here at the high school. All of our students in study halls and in the cafeteria have been prepared with our new enhanced lockdown procedures, and they know what to do. And all of our students have viewed the Safe to Say video. So again, I think it's a very smooth start to the school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Next on the, I think we
Dr. Hammond, can I get information on what the equipment fitness center consists of? Like how many treadmills are working, how many bikes,
Sure.
electrical bikes? Could you
Sure,
bring
I'll
that
get-
back
I'll
to
get
the
a
board?
count for
'Cause I
you.
know we talked about that.
I mean, I've been down there. I know they have ellipticals and treadmills and all the weight equipment and
Yeah.
all that stuff, but I can get something for you.
I
That's
think
what
a
it-
lot of that stuff is broken. I remember them saying it from last year, so that's
I'll
something
do a check.
I'd like the board to know. Thank you.
Yep.
One of the positions that we added in the new collective bargaining agreement is a wellness position.
Yeah,
They have,
right.
actually have that monitored for
It's a good
students
idea.
that come down.
So if we can get some good equipment in there. Yeah.
I think, I was gonna say, could the record reflect, I think, Mr. Kohler, are you on? Hello?
I am on.
Okay.
Mr. Fischel, when you look at it, if there happens to be, I don't know if there is, but dates,
You hear me talking now?
We got you.
like if those machines by any chance have a date of like manufacture or anything on the equipment that's down there, I'm not saying you have to go with a fine tooth comb, but if we could happen to see, I know some of it's really old.
Yeah.
So if we could happen to see what they're using, that would be.
We can take a look at it
Yeah,
for you.
that would be awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I just think it's outdated, not
Yeah.
2007.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda was a conference report. As the board is aware, Mr. Boyers attended a conference on best practices for school-wide positive behavior intervention support. And that information that he obtained from the conference, he's bringing back to the board. It's part of a bigger conversation that we're having within the district of really developing our school-wide positive behavior plans. So I'll let Mr. Boyers go into detail with this.
Sir. Before Mr. Boyers gets started, we have a new addition to the Plum family. Mr. Boyers had a baby girl. Congratulations.
Mr.
Thank you.
Boyers did not have.
No, I didn't.
Mr. Boyers had something to do with
Looking pretty good for a baby girl. She'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. It's hard to believe that she'll be 2 weeks old already, so it's kind of crazy.
Great.
He had been 72 weeks.
What's her name? Kaylee Rose Boyers. So she was tiny. She was 5 pounds 2 ounces, but she gained 8 ounces last week, so she's plugging away. Got her doing some push-ups and whatnot. So last time I had an opportunity to speak to the board, I actually spoke to you all virtually while I was at this conference. I presented on Alex, and there was some feedback issues. I'm sure y'all remember that. But regardless, I wanted to come back and share what I learned at the conference, as well as kind of what we're doing already at O-Block and kind of where the next steps we're moving towards. In the world of education, we love acronyms. So obviously, you'll hear the acronym SWIBIS, School-Wide Positive Behavior Intervention Support. Again, I already kind of talked about trying to model what we expect here at Plum, but sharing my knowledge, identifying our research-based initiatives that we're continuing to explore, as well as what's currently implemented at this point in time. Some background. So again, it stands for School-Wide Positive Behavior Intervention and Support. Again, like Dr. Walsh said, is that research-based, evidence-based framework. So it's not that we're going off the cusp here and doing what we think and we feel. These are tried and true practices that are being implemented throughout. And it talks about that continuum of services. So you talk about behavior. Well, behavior has a larger impact on just the child itself. And obviously, behavior impacts academics, impacts attendance. Talk about our student assistance program, our MTSS, a lot of things you've already been hearing about. So school-wide really fits really nicely into that model. This image here depicts that school-wide itself is representative of the entire population. So you'll see that there are different tiers that go up. You probably saw that when we talked about MTSS. But there are different tiers that are represented here, and again, it's talking about our entire population within our school building. Majority of our population sits in that 70 to 80%. That's that bottom tier 1 population. So what are we doing to continue to push forward and recognize the things that they're doing? Those students that may have some additional behavioral concerns, what's that next level? And then finally that tertiary level, that top 10%. How are we working with them to keep them engaged, keep them in school, and keep them being productive within the school climate and environment? School-wide can be implemented either in the classroom and outside the classroom. So when we're talking about outside the classroom, we're talking about our hallways, our buses, out in the parking lot. So pretty much anywhere in the school environment throughout the day. And again, it's focusing on those preferred behaviors, the behaviors that we recognize that we want students to end up displaying over time. And then one of the stats, again, an older stat, but again, it just talks about focusing on the positive piece of the behavior will actually improve by about 80% over time. And so it's important that we're telling kids what it is we want them to do, recognizing those behaviors, and not necessarily telling them don't do this. Because when we tell them don't do this, they're more inclined to want to try it and do it. Some things we're already doing at O-Block. So positive behavior referral. This is one of my favorite pieces that Mrs. Fight and I implemented with our staff. Our staff have full reign over this. We've identified roughly 6 categories that staff are looking for, as well as not just our teaching staff, but our paraprofessionals, custodial staff, cafeteria staff. Anyone can submit one of these referrals. And it's really trying to catch the student going above and beyond. We talked about some criterion of random acts of kindness, helping an adult, helping a peer, academic growth, which are these important pieces. But again, it's really anything that we're catching students that are doing that's going above and beyond. Favorite part that Mrs. Fight and I so much enjoy is we call those students down. So typically it's their first time in the principal's office. So they're a bit shaky at first to begin with. And then we always call home. And that's such an important piece. We're trying to build that home community relationship with our school. And then parents are always, it's a fun conversation as well. Hey, it's actually Boyers, the building principal. Oh no, what did he or she do? No, not even that conversation right now. The conversation is your child did this, here's why it's positive, here's how it impacted our environment. And going back to talking about how we're a team. It's about that collaborative effort of the school and home relationship. Parenting is not easy, so it's awesome to hear that your kids are doing the right things when you're not around. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from our parents in regards to these conversations and recognizing students for these various behaviors. The other piece is the Principal's Advisory Council. So this is a representative group of 7th and 8th grade that represent various facets within our building and outside of our building. And Mrs. Fight and I meet with them monthly. They are the eyes and ears of our school. They talk about the climate, the culture of the building. They're giving us suggestions continually. We meet with them about academics and what we want to see done differently. How can we improve? And then again, what is it that they want their school experience to be? We continually tell students at O-Block, this is not our school. We are employed here, we work here, we want to work with you, but it's your school, it's your experience. It's what do you want out of these 2 years of experience? And so we're continually listening to them. And beyond just listening to them, it's about actually making the change and seeing that students, they have a voice and it's valued. And so that's the important piece that's a part of that. We also use this group for leadership opportunities throughout our school. So we had our Move Up Day last year, we implemented this. Our 7th graders, who are now 8th graders, took full ownership of taking students around touring the building, giving feedback. It was really a positive experience, and just giving them those opportunities to excel and lead within the building. And then the last piece that we added for this year is we've been talking a lot about what are our O-Block students, or what did they show us? And so we talked about respectful, kind, caring, committed, and driven. Throughout our handbook meetings and our various meetings thus far, we've been talking to students about what do these words mean to us in our building. And again, going that next step and starting to recognize when students are displaying these behaviors and why they're important for us. And so those are the things we've already implemented from school-wide. 2 other pieces that we're looking at and doing some additional research on. First is Rachel's Challenge. At the middle level, I truly believe that you have to have some form of character education component built in. We have young adolescents who are trying things and they want to explore and they're trying to find themselves, and so it's important to reinforce that character educational component. And so Rachel's Challenge was something that Dr. Walsh and I attended down at Cal U, and understanding what that may or may not provide for us at O-Block, and even on a larger lens, a K-12 lens. So Rachel's Challenge, if you're not familiar, she was one of the first students killed in Columbine, and so after her death, her father found a journal, and her journal was really about just being positive and connecting with people and going above and beyond to extend that olive branch to make people feel welcome and a part of that. And so to honor her life, her dad has continued this journey and built this program over time. And there are a lot of schools that are embracing this program to improve their climate and culture. And the other piece that we're looking at is No Place for Hate. It's from the Anti-Defamation League, and really just talks about equality in the building, and understanding that we all play an important role, and we all bring different things to the table, and how do we embrace those and make them the larger part of our school climate, culture, and community. And so, again, 2 other programs that we're currently reviewing to see if they would be a good fit for us, but more importantly, potentially for the district K-12. Now, obviously, you're going to cite something, you have to reference it. So.
Thank you.
Questions, thoughts? And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to go. I really appreciate it.
Good stuff.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I didn't even notice.
You good?
We good, Dr. Wall?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is the benefit of our faculty and our administrators going out to conferences and bringing back research-based practices. It benefits the whole community. And I can't thank the board enough for allowing Mr. Boyers to take that trip and bring this information back to us.
Thank you.
So the grants, we going to move those forward?
No objection.
Thanks to everybody who worked to get that.
Nice.
Okay. Tracy?
All right. Dr. Walsh, are you presenting again, or
Yes.
Dr. Hershey?
Both of us.
Okay.
We wanted to bring this to the board's attention because it seemed to be an opportunity for us, for the district. The board has heard me talk about our multi-tiered system of support, about our SAP program and how we're supporting kids. You heard me talk about our assessment plan moving forward. What we found is that in communication with Padden and with PDE, there is money available for districts that are doing exactly what we're doing. And Dr. Hershey and I wanted to take some time and just share with you the opportunity that it presented itself that we'll use state money to move our own model and our goals forward. So the state grant is $80,000 for 2 years. The strategic goals that it's going to hit obviously is increasing student rigor and achievement, maximizing financial responsibility, satisfying our customers, and I'm not sure why that went off. Hopefully we'll get back on. There it goes. In cultivating a first-rate workforce. The learning goals was, and you notice that Mr. Boyers and myself, we have learning goals. One of the expectations for all of our classroom teachers is to have learning goals posted. So whenever we're presenting, we're putting learning goals forward because we should be doing it throughout the system. So one is to utilize our assessment data. As you're aware, we updated our assessment plan last year and put in these rich assessment pieces. And we've also talked about adding interventions for our students. You heard me talk about the levels of support for kids in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and kids that have some intense needs. And we always want to reinforce the balance between our curriculum, assessment, and instruction. And under the balanced scorecard, goal number 2, this grant ties nicely into our goal of reducing the percentage of non-proficient students. Essential questions. As a district and working with our department leaders, we talked about the importance of having a common language, a common methodology of how we approach curriculum and teaching and learning. What do we want our kids to know? What are those enduring learnings? You heard me talk about the curriculum mapping process that is happening. What do we want our kids to know and be able to do? And what do we want our students to be familiar with? We also need, with the addition of the assessments, how do we know if our students are learning? The importance of having a continuum of assessments and having that data to drive instruction. And most importantly, what we're going to talk about tonight is how do we respond when individual students do not learn? And how do we enrich and extend learning for students who are proficient? This is our model of teaching and learning that came out of our department leaders meeting. And this really defines the framework that we have in regards to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Pennsylvania in 2014 enacted Act 69, which was a pilot program that put money aside for districts and to start to study students with dyslexia. In 2018, Act 37, the purpose was a continuation and the expansion of the K-2 pilot to 3rd and our 4th graders. The expectation is to improve student or teacher practice. Are our teachers using research-based instructional strategies in the classroom? Or how are we using our assessment data? What are the research-based interventions we're using to help support our students? There's 15 schools in Pennsylvania that are participating, and the Plumboro School District was asked to be a part of this study. In going through this background check and vetting this grant proposal out, I also wanted the board to be aware of our own policy, 216, student records. The pilot program for the early literacy and dyslexia is in compliance with our student records and with FERPA. Student data will not be shared with anybody outside of the parent and with who needs to know, the classroom teachers and building administrators. And I wanted to get that out there because that's always very important. As I shared with you, it is $80,000 over 2 years. It started this July, and they are right now finalizing the schools that are participating. I thought it was important to bring this forward, myself and Dr. Hershey, to the board so that you're aware of this. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hershey.
So just to kind of clarify a little bit the process that we're going to be using, and we're going to be continuing through our MTSS process as we began making some changes last year with the adoption of the Amplify M-Class system that we have this year. We just did the DIBELS assessments, K to 6, with our students just in the last couple of weeks. This is going to continue on with that process and really just provide us some funding and training and consultation support in that. So the model that we're going to continue to use and really make sure that we're honing in on the needs of our students is a 4-step process. Step 1 being we're going to identify students in their areas of weakness. Step 2, how is that weakness affecting student success? And then step 3, of course, is how are we going to implement a research-based intervention to address the area of weakness? And in the past, that's an area we've realized we needed to hone in on and make sure that we have interventions available that are research-based and that our teachers are trained and capable of administering effectively. And then step 4 is how did the students respond to that intervention? And that's a piece that we're also going to be focusing on looking at the data, diving deeper into the data and finding out how our students are doing and if those interventions are working, and if not, what are we going to do next? So this grant is focused on grades K to 2 and reading instruction. So again, it fits right in with what we have already been planning to do this year, so it's really helping to fund what we had already hoped to do as far as the expansion of our MTSS model in the district this year. Like I had mentioned, it's going to provide instructional practices and training for K to 2 general education teachers. It's going to provide technical training and assistance from PE, so we're going to have patent consultants and consultants from the intermediate unit who will be involved in helping to support our teachers and make sure they're well trained in implementing interventions and looking at data even more importantly. Additionally, we're going to be expanding our MTSS system and providing additional appropriate interventions to support our students. These are all research-based interventions that we've highly considered and looked into. Of course, DIBELS 8, which is our Amplify DIBELS system. It's a Tier 2 intervention. Along with that, there's BURST, which is a Tier 3 intervention. We have LLI, which is a system that we've been using in the past, which we will likely continue with some students based on their needs. Sonde is a Wilson-based reading program that we have also adopted and we will be supporting students in. Just Words is another that we're Gillingham Wilson based. Sonde and Just Words both are And then corrective reading is a reading intervention that we currently use with some of our special education students that pull out support. The grant funding, like I mentioned, provides that technical support from PDE, so our teachers will be involved in training, data analysis support, purchase and implementation of new interventions to support our students, training on research-based interventions, building substitutes if we need those in order to allow our teachers to be part of necessary training opportunities. And we'll also be able to collaborate with other districts, which I think is really important. Some of the districts that were involved in the pilot, the true pilot last year, have graciously extended offers to allow us to visit and see how they're implementing things, what kind of schedule they're using to provide interventions, and we always want to learn from each other and find out what other districts are doing and how we can improve ourselves. And the reason that we're doing this is because of the critical need to address early literacy at those foundational years in K-2. The research really supports, and Dr. Walsh and I did some research and just highlighted some key areas, but the Dyslexia Foundation, the Annie Casey Foundation are both reputable foundations in the field of early reading intervention and support for students, and they all, the research all points to the fact that we need to intervene early, and if we don't intervene by 3rd grade, then we see those students not be successful later on down the road, meaning they are more likely to not graduate, more likely to be incarcerated, become unemployed. So we want to intervene early and make sure that at that K-2 level we're really addressing the needs, and then of course as we get that perfected, we will move on to 3rd and 4th grade as well, just as the pilot is expanding.
And that's the pilot team. Any questions? Yes?
Could you go back one slide?
Okay. Right here?
No, one more. Okay, that one. Okay, so we'll get, the state's gonna give us a grant, $80,000 for 2 years. And it says it provides technical support, data now. I mean, does this mean that they're gonna pay our people to do this stuff, or they're gonna send in new people to come and get our stuff?
We control it all.
Okay, so it's gonna actually reduce our educational budget by 80,000.
Well, and Dr. Hershey has done a quite nice job of following up. What we've been told is M-Class can be funded through this grant. The interventions that we're purchasing can be funded through this grant. There is nothing new that this grant offers that we would not be doing differently. When we share data, we would share globally, and no names or any recognition of our students. That would stay between the teacher and the building administrator.
That's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I know what you people are talking about,
Yeah.
but now I'm translating it into board speak.
Okay.
Okay. When you say, oh, well, we're gonna train research-based interventions. Are we gonna buy interventions?
I'll give you an example of that. Foundations.
Is it booklets? Is it something? Is it a program? When you say that.
It can be all of the above. I'll give you an example. It's my understanding that some of our teachers and some of our buildings had grant money in the past, and they purchased foundations, which is for phonics. And okay? So not all the buildings have it. Not all the teachers with the changes that have occurred have been trained. So now we can assure by purchasing foundations for our kindergarten classrooms, you can purchase it through 3rd grade. Everybody has the materials. It enhances our ELA program, and we have money to train our teachers now.
Okay.
So everything that Dr. Hershey and I have been talking about, I guess for the last 10 months, we found the alternative revenue source that will fund exactly where we're going as a district.
So you were ahead of the curve and we finally got paid.
We're hoping. So the board moves this forward. There will be a form for Dr. Highland to sign, and I will submit that information as soon as possible.
Can you speak to, because I know we focused on the early literacy part, but can you talk about, because you kind of said the Wilson part and Orton Gillingham, but can you talk about what we have learned about dyslexia and kind of why
Sure.
it's
So
important?
part of the purpose of this grant is focusing on early literacy, but what we do know about early literacy is that we do have a population of students who have dyslexia and as a result struggle with reading. And because of that, we need to make sure that they're instructed in using specific research-based tools and specific instructional strategies, and those being multisensory. We need to make sure that these activities are hands-on. Orton Gillingham are programs that are highly supported by research as being effective with students with dyslexia. There may be a larger percentage of our students that have dyslexia than maybe are identified. So this pilot is really looking at early literacy in general, so it's gonna educate our K-2 general education teachers on how to teach reading better to all students. But it's also gonna have a focus on making sure that we're assessing students who have dyslexia and making sure that we're providing matched interventions that will support them most effectively.
Dr. Anderson, there was a study, I think, I don't know if you're familiar, it just came out in regards to the percentage of students that fall into the range of dyslexia. At first, it was thought it was 5% of the students in a classroom. It's more closer to 20%. And that the students that struggle in reading is between 60 and 70% in the early primary years. So these research-based interventions will benefit all students through incidental learning. All kids are going to have better skills in word attack skills and have strategies to become better readers.
And I think what's important that I really appreciate you guys are doing is that those statistics are fairly new.
Yes.
Right? The statistics that dyslexia has moved from 5 to 20% that they can identify is fairly new. So we may have missed students, but it's not because we didn't know that we were missing them. And so being able to catch it earlier now with the new research, I think, is important. And I appreciate that you guys are doing it and pushing that forward.
Great Columbus chosen also.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good
Thank you
job.
so much.
That's awesome.
That's a good presentation.
But you're right, they're ahead of the curve.
Dr. Rena Hershey, thank you. Getting that $80,000 is because they're getting outside of the district and they're getting to network with other people. And so I just want to thank you for the hard work that both of you have put into this. It's well done, very well done.
Yep, I agree.
Thank you very much.
Anybody not?
Okay to move that
Oh,
forward?
please move that forward. Yes, thank you. Please move that forward.
Dr. Hershey, don't sit down.
Are you trying to get up to the screen?
Do you have it?
Loading.
Yeah.
Alright, I also have the next item on the agenda. Is it okay if I do that? Alright, which is the Plumboro Special Education Advisory Committee and some discussion about that. So I have a handout that I'll pass around and then Mr. Willett is hopefully gonna pull that up for me.
Thank you.
Alright, so what this special education department at the district would like to propose implementing this school year is what we're calling a special education advisory committee. And I'm gonna invite Mrs. Jen Evans, one of our teachers, kindergarten teachers, up, who is also a parent in the district. She and I have been in conversations about this over the last several months. She was very involved in our Pivot Elementary School Inclusive Playground Project. And so she had a big hand in that, and she's a big advocate of special education, and she has a child herself who has some special needs. And we've had the pleasure of working with him since he started kindergarten last year. So the mission of this advisory committee is to provide some valuable information and support to families in the district and children who have special education needs. So what we'd like to do is begin a committee that would be made up of parents, potentially teachers, and members of the community who have a special interest in special education. Our hope is to provide quarterly presentations via guest speakers on special education topics that are valuable and critical from the committee's view for our students. So Jen, do you I know as a parent sometimes it's difficult to get some support for your child, and so our goal with this is to really kind of make that happen for our families.
Yes, and I will say as a parent, I have two boys who are special needs students. They're on the autism spectrum, and I can say say that it takes a village to raise those children, and I think that Dr. Hershey's idea of this committee is the perfect forum to help bring those supports to our families, and I'm really excited to be a part of this, and I think we're gonna be able to do great things to include all kids.
So, this being the first year of it, we are looking to simply provide a quarterly training opportunity, potentially a guest speaker, at no cost, someone who would be local. We have a lot of great organizations in the area, and we have a lot of great professionals within our district, our school psychologists, some other of our teachers who have a strong background in special education, and some of our other staff and parents as well. But we want to provide an environment for families to get information, to feel like they're connected to their district, to feel like they're connected to the special education process. We also want to provide opportunities and a connection to what's going on in their community. So we'd like to try to engage some of our local businesses as we try to expand some of the other services we offer here in the district, specifically our transition age students, age 14 to 21. Mrs. Dessel, who is our high school life skills teacher, does a fantastic job with those students, and she's been expanding opportunities to get those kids out in the communities, working in local businesses, doing job shadowing, volunteering, and getting some job skills. And we want to continue to expand that as the district and the state require us to make sure that we are providing good transition services to those students before they graduate. So the committee's responsibility will be to determine the topics, formats, and ways to share that information. And we would like to begin hopefully meeting in October. And right now our committee members are myself and Mrs. Evans. Mr. Nisley is also going to be involved in our committee and helping to plan. And then we're going to be seeking interested parents and teachers, as well as other community members that might have a special interest in special education for one reason or another. So if you all have any recommendations on that, or other businesses that might be interested in making a connection with kids in their own communities that have special needs. And Mr. Nisley is a fantastic administrator at Center Elementary with our special education population there. As many of you know, we have our most highest need students coming into the school in kindergarten are in his building, and every year we are continuing to include more and more students with more and more significant needs. And I would say this year is probably the most significant of the needs we've included in our neighborhood school. And so I think we're really proud of that classroom and the growth that it has had, not just number-wise, but the ability to service students. So he'll be a great addition to this as well. Anything else you?
This is a great idea.
Covered it all.
Oh, great idea. Thanks for getting this up and running.
Thanks for the presentation.
Wonderful. I think it's important too for the parents to feel they have a network of others who are going through the same things on a day-to-day basis in the lives with their children. So not only will this benefit the students in the district, but, and you know, other opportunities even in Pittsburgh and beyond for events with students with learning disabilities and autistic needs. So kudos to you folks, that's great. Yeah.
So we just need to say we're good to move it forward?
Yes. Good, yeah.
Yes. Awesome, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think you gave a presentation.
Take the next one. Yeah. We have a young lady, a ninth grader, Sarah Kavornik, who is a gymnast and wants to participate in Whitfield gymnastics. However, we don't have a gymnastics team. The Whitfield allows students, if they can find a coach that has met all the qualifications for the Whitfield, to serve as a coach. They need permission from the parent, they need permission from the actual coach, and they also need permission from the sending school board, all of which have been linked in your agenda. And I think it's a nice opportunity for this young lady to compete and represent Plum, even though we don't necessarily have a team. And it gives us the opportunity to allow her to maximize her talents and her potential. So I recommend that the board accepts that.
I agree, it's just another example how we're sharing services with other school districts.
And it's,
Have we done that in the past? For gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
I thought we did have a gymnastics.
I think year by year we have to approve something. I just don't remember if
get a copy of the, clearances, please? and
I've already
resume?
checked, the clearances are there,
Okay.
they've been approved, I
But
checked.
we have a
with
copy on, in our HR.
That I don't know, but I
But
know.
can we get that for our
Yeah,
HR, just in
absolutely.
case
Yep.
there's any questions? We know there's some history with USA.
Okay, so we're okay to move that forward?
Yes.
All right, letter F.
And then holiday park field trip, is there someone gonna speak to
Is
it?
this new, that they're starting this?
Dr.
now?
Schuler?
I don't remember.
You wanna
I
talk
don't
about the field
remember.
trip, fifth, sixth grade? Attached is the, form and the rationale. It's my understanding this came from the music department at Holiday Park. And, they were looking at opportunities that mirror other opportunities at the secondary level for performance skills. So I'll let Dr. Schuler just impromptu give a little.
That's okay. Good evening, everyone. So last May, we were talking, myself, Jane Boyle, our music teacher at Holiday Park, Aaron Marion, band instructor, and Megan Martz, orchestra teacher, of ways that we could potentially grow chorus at Holiday Park. So we floated out some 10,000-foot ideas, but one that was more immediate was the thought of potentially having a capstone event for the 5th and 6th grade students that participate in chorus at Holiday Park for the 2019-20 school year. So that event would be the potential for a field trip the day after school ends to Cedar Point in Lake Sandusky, Ohio, which is a little over 2 hours away. And the field trip would be completely fundraised by the students and the families. In addition to that, the educational capacity behind it would be for the opportunity of course students to perform at Cedar Park or Cedar Point during the course of that day, that visit there. So they would perform, they would get to enjoy the park, and it would be completely fundraised by those students willing to participate in this. There would be chaperones. Of course, the chaperones would have to have all their clearances. And in addition to that, we asked Mrs. Boyle to provide a rationale as to the educational benefits for this potential field trip of what she did for you to review. We do see great benefits in this as our core students do put on performances in the winter and the spring, and also give them an exciting opportunity to work towards something at the end of the school year with the potential of the Cedar Point trip. So after we had those discussions, I said, well, let's get this down on the paper and take it to central administration or school board to see what their thoughts are. But we do see value in this. There is much chatter amongst the 5th and 6th grade students of the potential for this, and we really feel that the work there's still some work to be done in regards to getting the chaperones, etc., but we feel it's there, and putting all these moving parts together could create a successful trip and experience for these students.
So I think this is great to expose the kids and give them the opportunity, but what's the student chaperone ratio since they are 5th and 6th graders? Did you discuss that?
10, it looks like.
Is it in here 10 to 1?
Yeah.
So it's 10 students for one chaperone?
That's what it looks like, yeah.
It's
That's
not
a-
overnight, right?
That's a lot of.
No,
Just-
That's
it's
a
a
lot.
day trip.
Just so you know, that's a lot of students for one chaperone.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's certainly something we can go back and
Yeah.
look. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this, but I truly believe that the parent support would be there, and because it is a day trip, I'm willing to bet we get a number of chaperones, which would
Families.
significantly reduce
So
that
that will lower that
ratio.
number, because I'm okay with it as long as we can lower that number, because I know 10's a lot.
Do you have any concerns with,
Yeah.
parents of 6th graders fundraising for a 6th grade trip side by side with a trip like this?
It
I mean,
is-
it's a one day, it's not an overnight, so do you not see it as being prohibitive? I wouldn't
It's-
think, but I just wanted to get your perspective.
Yeah, my perspective on that is that there's many things these students are fundraising for, and I agree with you, Mrs. Caldwell, with that. We did talk about that, but at the same token, we feel that the group of students, which right now we don't have that number, but we feel would be pretty substantial because this is something that they want to do, and the families are willing to go out into the community and others to help fundraise for that.
And is it each,
It's on the contract.
like marching band would perform and chorus would perform? Did you say
It's
both
just the
would go?
chorus.
Just chorus?
Yeah, it's which this is strictly fifth and sixth grade course members.
So you're listing 250 as the max of 250 course. On there, they have 250 students.
Yeah, that would be potentially
Right.
the max.
Okay.
I don't think we'll get to that number, but I do believe, because we're right now, parallel with the Discovery Clubs, we are currently having course signups.
Okay.
And I don't have a number right now, I can go back and get that. but I think that'd be good.
So are we looking at, I'm already thinking transportation and safety for the children. Are we thinking tour buses, parents, shuttle,
They would-
or are we looking at Plumboro school buses?
They would be tour buses, coach buses for the day trip.
And then it looks like, clicked into it, that for a student's ticket is 35, for an adult's ticket is 40. So that would be, you know what I mean, for
Well,
her family would be split in coach bus.
250 students.
Those details,
Yeah.
I'm worried about the chaperones, I wanna prove it unless that number goes down, I don't know how you fix that, but I think it's a great idea. I just want to come and care for one person in a big park like that.
We can absolutely revisit that number and, look to reduce that.
Well, I'm okay with the whole thing as long as we get the details settled before. Chaperones.
So do we need to approve this tonight? Is that what you're looking for?
We were looking for, some type of board approval.
Yeah, we're looking for an opportunity to share that this is a viable option for our
Yeah,
students.
Then we should probably amend what we would like for that to be, so that they can move forward, or?
So, in field trips policy, for overnight field trips, I'm just looking at the adult to student ratio. It says 1 adult chaperone for every 6 to 8 elementary students, and 1 adult chaperone for every 12 to 15 secondary students attending. So that's for overnight field trips.
It's very similar to that, though, I feel like.
That's a lot of kids.
But usually when you're overnight, you're touring as a group, whereas
I think
in
the
an
thing-
amusement
consider
park of
too-
that size, are you gonna?
I'm just telling you from experience, when I went down to Walt Disney World with the band, you know, at one point, I think I had 4 to 6 kids, and at one point I had like 10 to 12, and it was too much for me. It's too much for anyone to know where those kids are going. They were in different parts of the park, and they were in different actual, you know, the Epcot, it was.
That environment.
I do not recommend putting that stress on anyone.
Oh, sure.
If something happens to one of those kids, heaven forbid,
How many
you know,
people
it's the
course last year?
chaperone, the volunteer.
So I think what, I think that's a good idea.
And that's
The
what we
realistic
revisit.
thing is that
Yeah.
when you go to an amusement park, they're going to go on different rides. You can't be with the kids all the time. That's the
But
hard
it's a
part.
lot of responsibility,
No,
Dr. Adam, let me tell you.
I've been there.
Yeah,
I felt
mean,
stressed. Yeah.
you know,
Could
Push
we
gardens
approve
for
it
me.
and say for policy, because policy is 6 to 8, would you feel better if we did that?
I think we need to give
Or is that too
Fran
much to-
something to aim for here.
Right.
is it 10 to 1 now?
Well, he's saying that 250 is a projected number because they still have signups going on with the
Yeah.
discovery period, so he doesn't know how many are gonna sign up for chorus.
Give me your
I would
suggestion,
just
Rick.
add that part of how this was developed, that last year, Dr. Sheila just shared with me, was about 60 kids in chorus.
Oh.
And with those numbers, the high school music department was approaching Dr. Shula about how do we grow this program? And out of that came a collaboration with his faculty to where we are today. Now, I don't know if we can give you an exact number. Some kids may start down this path and may not want to complete it, but I think it's fair to say you're not going to have all 250 kids in chorus.
That's very first.
Yeah.
So you're saying you had 60 last year?
Yes.
You might get 100 this year
We can get 100, we can get 120.
So
Yeah,
if
so
you could
it's
get 20
very
chaperones,
Yeah.
then you're looking at a more manageable.
Well, I think what that
than
ratio
5
is
to 1.
that you want. I think that's, do you know what I mean? I think that's the only part here. Regardless of how many he gets, how many they get to participate in chorus, it's just a ratio of get more
I think
parents.
that policy needs revisited.
The 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Does the policy specifically cover day
No.
trips?
That's
what we have-
I didn't see it.
to do.
Well,
So
then
we
we
have
could
to-
ask,
We have to revisit the policy
we could ask,
for day trips also.
get Mrs. Osvaldo to put that
Because
on the
overnight
agenda.
trips is a different thing.
Good idea, Rich. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
don't know, Rick, what would you say?
I supported the initiative where I would
I
not
do,
have added
I
it to the
do.
agenda.
What do you say about the chaperones? First
Well,
Your K-3.
I'm just saying as a chaperone, I've had a lot more than 10, and I was able, but this is what I do for a living, is work with
Yeah.
elementary kids. I believe that I can work with Dr. Schuler, we can get that ratio lower.
Okay.
And, you know, we want to encourage parents to participate in these experiences with their kids. I can't imagine if kids are performing at an event that a parent would not want to attend.
Right.
So getting the number of chaperones, I don't feel is going to be a challenge.
Well, the part that would be maybe the challenge is parents who have the clearances do all of those
Volunteer.
things to volunteer.
And it's different, when I'm volunteering,
Yeah.
you're volunteering, like, it's different for,
I got
it's different. yeah.
And part of what we're talking about this evening is giving Dr. Schuler the authority to move forward with this, because as we're talking about chaperones, discussing these opportunities with kids, it takes time, and we're discussing this, 8 months out?
Right.
Yes.
Which is
So-
great.
I'm fine with
I
that. I
guess-
think it, you know, it grows the music program,
Yeah.
which is the goal.
Absolutely.
And
And
maybe
that's
to,
exactly.
kind of help with the chaperone part, and it's not on the form, but obviously, when I take 30 kids to, and I mean, we did it to like King's Dominion, right? When I take 30 kids to King's Dominion, they're checking in with me regularly, so we don't have anything on here that is making you feel warm and fuzzy to say that we're gonna make sure that chaperones check in every couple of hours, or something like that. I don't know if that needs to be policy, but if it's something that is, obviously that's best practice, and you
Yeah.
don't just
And
let
I'll be
them go.
honest,
Exactly.
that Disney trip was a mess, so
Yeah.
it was a 3-4 day, it was just a mess. Great experience for the kids, but just the way it was handled
But I
and
just
stuff.
wonder
So
if
I'm
there's-
sure this 1-day trip, you know, maybe if you can cut it down to like six kids, you know, lower that number to 10. I think you'll have enough parents.
What I'd recommend is that if we can move, if the board so chooses to move this forward, but we'll keep you posted, I'll keep you informed as we travel down this road. If we have 250 kids, then obviously we're talking a different scenario as opposed to we have 60.
I think eight probably is a good number, because each kid, you have 8 and they can pair up, and they always have to have someone to
Yeah,
pair up with.
4 pairs.
So,
6 could pair up.
they could, but someone's sitting out on a ride.
I think you'll have a lot of parents that'll want to chaperone, so I think you'll be
agree.
fine.
When we-
Yeah, I think it'll be
Yep.
fine.
This is what you should do for chaperones on a trip. I mean, do we have anything that's even like a guide or a document for teachers or for anyone who's taking anyone?
Right?
We have cell phones at one point that we gave people that were chaperoning. Do you remember that too?
We still have those,
I
yeah.
don't.
You still have the cell phone, so you didn't have to use your personal cell phone, so you could say to Johnny, who's not, you know, on your cell phone, come, you know, meet me here and all that, but I think we've pretty well.
I just meant for
Yeah.
best practices
I
on
think we
like,
should.
would be good
I
things.
don't think we have anything, because there's so many different types of field
Yeah.
trips that you could have. I think there's best practice, basically making sure that kids are checking in on a periodic basis, making sure that they're always on the bus, make sure you're always doing your counts. I mean, as educators, we know that there's certain things that you do. Is it written down anywhere, Dr. Anderson? I don't know if that's the case.
It is.
It is?
AR 121.
AR 121.
They are written down? You said they are?
AR 121 has some guidance for.
Yeah, that administrative regulations, that's when it came out from Disney.
Here's-
Remember that?
Yep, there it is.
So we're okay to move this forward when we get more information?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Scott,
Thank you.
Rick asked if you could ask a couple questions.
A couple of questions for items that are not on this that kind of developed as we were going through this. When we were talking about the dyslexia presentation, and the percentage of children that have dyslexia, and then we have reading problems, becoming proficient. Do we have an eye exam program? Does anybody know?
It's part of the nursing
I
assessment.
mean, do we do
It's part
that
of the
anymore?
nursing
Do we have
assessment
eye
by
exams?
state.
Certain grades, right?
Yes.
It's part of the
we do.
nursing assessment by state.
Yeah, because I'm looking at,
Health regulation.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4 of our students, and we're all wearing glasses here.
Part
And
of-
if you can't read,
Yeah.
if you can't see,
Yeah.
sometimes you're diagnosed with other problems
hear you
with.
too.
Part
I
of
just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
if we spend as much attention on making sure someone's vision is good as worried about being dyslexic.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And I'll
that's
just
all.
share with you, teachers, if the kid's having trouble reading the boards, they're gonna communicate that with the parent.
Well, some kids don't wanna, I didn't wanna go into a long dissertation, I was just asking to make sure
We are.
that we pay as much attention.
Yes.
Okay, the next thing, and this is kind of my last and final suggestion before my term's over, and I've done this for a number of years and never went anywhere, that since our I guess, byline is exceptionally prepared for success. I've recommended for years, off and on, that we do some kind of follow-up of our students to find out if they did a good job, find out
After
I mean,
graduation.
post-graduation.
post-graduation. How many years did it take you to graduate college? Was it 4, 5, 6? Did you switch majors 2 or 3 times? Did you go into the career that you started with, or you wanted to go, or did you switch? Those type of things to find. I mean, right now, we always talk about how good we can do things here, but the goal is really to prepare them after they leave here. And no one has ever said, oh yeah, that's a good idea, but no one ever did it.
Typically,
And I think it would be-
schools will send those surveys out after their freshman year. It was more in line with how well prepared did you feel you were for your freshman year? How well prepared were you in that calculus class at, in
Well,
college?
what I'm getting at is this, a number of
Exactly.
years ago, there was a state used to do research, and there was like 31% of plum students had to take remedial courses before they actually took their college courses.
I actually had experience with that at one of my former districts. They do a postgraduate survey, and they do it after their sophomore year.
Well, I think they should do it after I'm thinking of your freshman year, your sophomore year, after 6 years, 7 years down the road.
Yeah, the problem is that they tried that. It's a hard time getting a
I
return
know
rate
it's
on
all
that.
right, but we also have our Distinguished Alumni Association somehow contacts.
We don't have that anymore, I don't think, do we? Distinguished alumni, we
Well,
did.
we are,
Yeah,
and
we did.
Mr.
Not the
Zaborczak and I are in the
ones.
process of trying to rebuild that,
Not the
so that,
fundraising part.
for the alternative revenue. And one of the things that we're going to look at is to start collecting email addresses and phone numbers from those kids. And what we can do in our senior survey, because the kids, when they leave, we're going to ask for that information, so that we can begin to provide a database, so that we can start tapping into those. But I will tell you, the survey data that I got back in my previous district, it drove a lot of decisions. And we were validated on a lot of things, and there's some things that you find out, we need to work on that.
That's my point. We're going through all this new programs, and I hate to say this because I'm not, I don't use the acronyms well, but we're doing all these things that we think are gonna make better prepared students, nicer people. I'm thinking they'd be more willing to respond to surveys. If we did what we say we're gonna do, then they would respond better. And we can either validate what we're doing, or we can find any weaknesses. Because I know very few people who got out of college and started a career and are still in the same career. I'm not talking job, I'm talking career. And I also, the students that went on to technical school or the military, find out, what did they do? Were they happy? Were they prepared? Did they stay with the job? Did they switch? It's always curious after all this time that we prepare, and when they graduate, we go, bye, have a good time. And all I get is feedback from parents and other students personally. But as a school district, we don't have any. Now, granted, maybe only 10% of the people will respond. Maybe it takes a few years, but we gotta start somewhere, and I think it would be a good idea. Did you switch colleges? Did you drop out? Did you go back to work? I'd like to see how well we do our jobs here,
So-
because that's the whole idea.
Piggyback off Rich's statement about how people change careers and they start, maybe to go to college and then they go to technical school. Can I have the data from the last 5 years of the enrollment of Forbes Trail? Could you bring that to us at the next board meeting? Because I'd like to see if it's going up here at the high school, part-time, full-time, what the numbers look like. Because I know a lot of kids that really, the message should be sent is you still can go to Forbes Trail and you still can go to college. Yeah, it
Right.
seems there's such a stigma that you either go to Forbes
right.
Trail or you go to college.
You're right.
And I think that would help a lot of kids moving past when they leave Plum, to have some skills.
Sure.
Okay.
5 years? So.
Yep,
Good point, Vic.
yeah.
My guess would be, I don't wanna speak out of turn, Mr. Fisher, but my guess is, I sat in with the guidance counselors last year, and they're really working towards that career readiness education as well, that is not just Forbes, but is even here, some of the things that they can do to be working towards college and career, right? And
Yeah.
knowing that it's not just,
Yeah.
you have to go to college, but you can do some other things and then go on to college.
Yeah, that's
So-
through career and you have people come
Yep.
and speak and stuff like that. But if Forbes, you can get a
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
certification, stuff like that, and I'd like to see, because I'd really like to see the district push that, and also, you know, other options.
I'll pull that data for you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Good job, Rick.
It's a good.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you all. Safe and supportive school committee, Mrs. Rossler, chairperson.
Do you have any updates?
Just briefly, all faculty had an opportunity to review our EOPs. All of our students have participated in fire drills, bus evacuation, and a number of our schools have already completed enhanced lockdown drills. All the buildings will have completed those drills by the end of next week. All of our students, as Mr. Official has said, 5 through 12 have completed the Safe to Save training, and that information is on our Safe and Secure website for parents to view. There's also part of our digital backpack, so parents had an opportunity to view that information, and if they had any concerns, to notify the building administrator. I won't get into a lot of facilities, but there's been a lot of work with LED lights at O-Block. There's been bollards added to the bus garage. If you're familiar with the garage, there was a gas line right near the front door. In the parking lot, there wasn't a barrier. There's bollards that were put in front of the gas line and the front doors to better protect them. Mr. Hanna attended the active threat incident training at Redden Fire Department, and it was coordinated. The focus of that training was the coordination during emergencies, police, fire, and EMS, the communication plan, command center, and Rolly started to build those relationships with our first responders. He attended for the district, and it was very well received. We submitted our emergency operation plans to the county. Those have been updated, and I'm in the process of talking to the first responders to make sure that they have access to that information also. And on our safety and security website, what you will find is the pictures of all of our school police with their biographies, so the community can get a better understanding of our armed police force and the people that are in our buildings and their backgrounds. I think what you will see is that it's very impressive, the backgrounds that they have and what they offer in regards to protecting and keeping our schools safe. And I believe that is all.
I'm going to add one more to that, Dr. Walsh. We reached out to the borough police department and asked them to continue to walk through our buildings,
I was gonna say
and they
that.
have graciously agreed to do that. We have also reached out, Officer Hanna has reached out to Chief Armstrong and asked the Plum Borough Police Department to come to our schools when we are having an enhanced lockdown drill, and ask them to observe, be part of the process, and we indicated to the borough that we would give them 48 hours advance notice. So whomever is on duty that particular patrol that particular time of the day, we want them to come into our schools and observe and be part of the process.
So that's
Great.
extremely
That's good.
important. And one of the things I would like to add to that is, do the EMS ever come to the school during lockdown drills? The fire
I've talked to
department?
Mr. Maloney, the director of Plum EMS. We meet quarterly, and they were part of the training at the beginning of the school year, and yes, they are going to be part of that moving forward.
Do you have like heaven forbid if something would happen, do you have like a designated area for each school that's on your emergency plans that everyone's aware and knows? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, I want a simple, quick answer. Whenever we, like you said, they were meeting and they had this meeting of how to communicate during a crisis. And my thought is always, when there's a crisis, we have police departments, we have fire departments, we have EMS, we have rescue squads, we have school officials, we have our own school department now, and somewhere along the line, sometimes the state or the county sheriff comes in. Do they, when they have these meetings, do they designate like who's going to be actually in charge? Or
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's funny that you asked that question, because I had that conversation with Officer Hanna, actually late last week. And it's one of the things that I asked him. The specific question is, if there is a lockdown and you're engaged in something, or you're heading towards something, and a Plum police officer comes in, how how are you supposed to handle that? And that's something that quite frankly has to be worked out. And I
That's
think
why the police are here.
when whoever the on-scene commander is, my guess is if a chief comes, the chief is gonna be responsible. And what Officer Hannah told me is they will direct and they will go into teams. My specific concern was if a tragic event had ever happened here, how would they go through and how would they clear the building? Who would go? Would our police officers go? Would it be the police?
I wouldn't, hey, Dr. Allen,
Yes.
I wouldn't get too in the weeds on procedure.
Yeah, we're not going to, I'm just kind of saying those are the types of things that we are going to have a discussion about. And I think the more that we communicate with each other, the better off that's going to be.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say to answer your question, all of the principals, myself, have been trained in incident command. And no matter what the incident is, small or large, it's the same protocols that are followed by first responders and whoever is on scene.
Okay, well, see what I'm thinking of. If there's a fire explosion, say a chemical explosion in our closet, some chemical type, I would rather have the fire department being in charge than the police department.
Well, they know how to do that though.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all
But I mean,
trained in
you know
that.
what I'm saying? If it's something.
That's all addressed in incident command.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
it
fine.
doesn't matter if
Something
it's an incident on the playground or something like you just described, incident command, how do I say this, it can expand to the, you can, what's the business term I'm thinking of, grow it, or, it's expandable. You can scale it, is what I'm looking for. It's scalable to any size of the incident, so it can be addressed. Okay, yeah.
It's good news though.
Didn't want to get in the weeds.
Good news, positive. That's all. You can move
All right,
on.
thank you. Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Schlock, chairperson.
Yeah, letter A, approval of signage for the high school campus, I guess, for the gym portion of the high school and then the side facing Ellicott Road.
Is this gonna light up?
So on the gym portion is that is going to have two spotlights on it. It's gonna be, the spotlights are gonna be put on the other side. There's the half dome, and then there's the building right across. And the spotlights are gonna be put on that building, so it faces towards the silver half dome.
Did we get spotlights on the American flag?
I believe they are.
I'm gonna check it out when I get a leave tonight.
And
Okay.
then the cost.
There are lights on the flag, there has to be lights on the flag, lit up overnight.
Well, that's why I asked.
Or they take it down.
And they take it
Been up for
down.
years.
Okay.
And the cost is 21 or 22,000, somewhere between there.
Correct.
And it's gonna come out of the money we got from Toyota.
Correct.
Yeah.
Great.
I also wanted to mention with the Ellicott Road sign, we were talking about kind of first impressions in our psychology class, and I think it's really important that, I know the sign right now kind of, it has something dripping and it has paintball marks on it, and if like an opposing team or visitors to the high school or people debating whether they want to send their children to the high school, come up and see, you know, a nice new sign with our new symbol on it as compared to the kind of destroyed past sign, I think it kind of gives off a better first impression, because even though it's such a minute thing about the school, it will really set the tone. Because I know, like, if I was, you know, visiting another school and they had kind of a sign like that hanging outside, I would already kind of be forming like expectations of the school and not very great ones, and that would kind of form my opinion. So I think it's great that we're replacing that.
I can't say it better
Thanks for your
myself.
input.
Very good input.
Yeah, thanks for
I've been
your
trying to
input.
get a new sign.
5 years, 4 years.
Yep. So,
I was actually in Maria's AP class today,
Yeah.
AP psychology. We had a great discussion, didn't we?
Yes.
she's spot on though.
Great.
What she said is
Oh,
spot on.
agreed.
I've been saying it for years.
So then
We're
we're,
not going to get paintball again.
Well, this one, I'm not gonna say anything.
yeah.
Just give it away.
It's state secrets.
We have cameras
Yeah.
now.
Get your clean.
Yeah,
So we're okay with that one?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, letter B.
Yeah, treasury report, monthly bills, August 2019. Does anybody have any questions, or Johnny,
question.
anything to add? Treasury report?
No, just, you'll start to see the bills for the work that's being done,
Overall.
at O'Block.
Yeah, the Fund 35 is gonna start dwindling down.
It's gonna start now.
Yeah.
The money's gonna start to, you're gonna see more and more GOV bills. It's a sign of things to come. So the lights and the roofing are being done now, and so the bills will start to come along.
That's a good thing, 'cause we need to
That's a
use
good
that.
thing.
we
We're
need to
getting
use
it
that
fixed.
up.
Getting
Yeah.
things done.
Good.
Monthly GOV bills, September 2019. John, anything to elaborate on that?
That's really what I was talking about.
Yeah,
That's what I was
yeah,
talking about.
true, yeah. Budget transfers,
I have no problem with them, I'm
No.
gonna cover them.
Most of them are reclassification
forward.
Yeah, move forward.
E.
External organizational oversight and compliance.
Update on this, we have, in conjunction with our internal auditor, have done 5 audits of 5 different booster groups. He's still conducting the audits, but all 5 have complied and given us the information requested. Some of them, just from the looks of them, have more detail than others. As far as any observations or reports, those will be given to you, but he needs some time to, go through the documents that were provided. Some of them are pretty thick, so, which I thought was a good sign, the fact that they had some speed on those.
They have documentation.
And I was also encouraged that, out of all 5 we requested, all 5 of them were fairly responsive in our requests, so.
Great.
So that's good, and we'll keep this going. About every 3 years, our intent is to audit the boosters, that particular group. So we would do it in groups of 5, so every year we would do 5, and we just rotate them through so that everybody's being done timely and then fairly as well.
Great.
John, I know that Mr. Shoup, when I was speaking to him about boosters a few weeks ago, had just mentioned he's gonna host some meetings with them to help them understand their function and roles and ways to improve, all that good stuff. Would it be possible for you to be able to be there and help them from that treasurer's perspective as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was my intention to attend.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did let me know about
Yeah,
that.
I thought he had, but I wasn't sure if he said you were gonna give him information and he'd present it, but
I think it's better just to come from me.
Yeah, you do an awesome job at that, so.
Yeah, it could get somewhat technical, and I don't want to discourage people from being booster members, but at the same time, have to let them know that there's certain safeguards you have to have when it comes to dealing with money. And,
Yep.
you're talking about taking money out of the students to pay for some of this stuff, you've got to make sure that the money is accounted for, so, making sure that there's protocols there, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Protocols and double checks.
Okay.
Thanks.
That would be my message, yeah.
Good job.
PTSO independent audit, we haven't done anything with this yet. And a board member mentioned this to me, and it's very timely considering Gateway just was found in an audit of their PTO. One of their members was, I don't know, it was theft of money. It was over $10,000.
Right.
So in order to be proactive with booster groups, it's suggested that we do this on our own. Right now, we have our accountant that does this work for us. For the boosters that know, charged us because we do an arrangement where we let them use our software program that we have with Forecast 5. In exchange for that, they provide X dollars of free service for us. And so that's one of the things I wanted to look at was the booster groups. Now with this independent audit of the PTSO, it was suggested that potentially we could have them, pay for the cost of that and then report it back to us, which that makes a ton of sense to me. So I think it's a matter of just making all of you aware of what our intentions are, and then asking them to, voluntarily pay for that out of the funds that they receive on an annual basis, or at the very least provide us with a copy of that independent audit. But at some level, there's got to be some district oversight on this as well. So
I agree with you. I've been saying that for years. Good job.
Do you foresee a great cost to them? Like,
they
ballpark?
probably
You
have
get
to
back
do this
us.
on their own. I'm thinking that they probably do this anyway. We just
Okay.
want them to report that back to us as a first start. But we may need to do additional testing above and beyond what their own independent auditors do. Because when they're only auditing things that they report. They're not necessarily auditing the entire operation. So it may be something, depending on how comfortable we feel with what they're reporting back to us. And I may come back to you and say, we may need to do a little bit more, or we might just be okay with what we have. But we can't be too safe with these types of things. Because it's not necessarily boosters and these PTSOs they're not district functions, but they give the district a bad name.
Yeah.
Right, oh, right.
You're not looking over them, and
Yeah.
we have a responsibility to at least provide oversight for them.
I
at
agree.
least.
So, since we're doing this now, like you suggested, every 3 years and rotate the different groups, do we need to have an administrative regulation, in regards to that, or do we need, I don't think we need policy necessarily, but, just moving forward to keep it consistent into the future, Are there any recommendations, how we can have it set that this is what the board would like from these specific
I
groups?
think Sue has a good point.
There's policy right now, but it doesn't specify when and how we operate. For flexibility, I think an AR would be
Yep,
appropriate
okay.
there, you know, we
Right
would
on.
build that out, sort of like we've been doing with our purchasing guidelines. and things
Great.
like that, to give us a little flexibility on the timing of when we do these, which, because it's not always gonna be the same 5 every year. If there's a problem one, we would probably go back the following year
Yeah.
and then do it again.
Couple years,
you know what I mean?
right.
So we're gonna need some discretion on there, I don't
Okay.
think we necessarily want black and white, so my opinion would be, you know, to build an AR around it, which I'm certainly happy.
Can you do that for us,
Yes.
please? Everyone's
I have it on minutes already.
Thanks.
We've always had an oversight, but the problem was nobody was enforcing it, because then every year they got new members, and they go, oh, I don't know who took care of the books last year, my kid graduated, and I gave it to so-and-so. And nobody just responded all the time, I mean, you know, nobody verified it, every 3 years would be out of the question, as far as I'm concerned.
It sounds like they have to
I think
now.
our policy was every year, but nobody was, the new people that came in didn't know about it, they didn't do all the proper paperwork, and our audits were like worthless.
I think the hard part of that is that when you have administrative regulations, most times there's a carrot and a stick, it's more of a stick, and if you don't have your numbers in, then you're not affiliated with the organization, and sometimes that's a hard one to pull the trigger on, but I think it's necessary in light of the things that you've seen in the news lately. So if we did do that, I think John would be pretty good at making sure that we're spot checking in an appropriate way. But if someone did not turn in their necessary paperwork and we cut off affiliation with them, I'm sure they're gonna be coming to the board to complain about that, and we would just need backing.
They always did.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we have an AR, then we should be in good shape.
They'll know the rules ahead of time, because they're getting audited.
Okay, that should cover that.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
Closing 3 student activity accounts.
Yeah,
The
we
high
have-
school store.
The school store is, it's no longer in the teacher contract. All 3 of these are positions that are not run by a teacher anymore.
Who makes the money off the store?
So there's still money left in the pot. In the case of the ski clubs, there's around $1,600 in that account. And high school store has a little over $1,000 in those accounts. So I wanted either, because if we delete those programs, which we're probably gonna have to since there's no sponsor, we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do with the
Doesn't
money.
Life Skills do the high
Life Skills
school?
do in the
Yeah.
store?
Yes, we can move the
Can we
money
give
into
that
the
money
life,
to them?
life skills was running it, and then we eliminated the school store. We could move that money, if they have the Best Buddies program. We could
Oh, yes.
move the remainder of that balance in there, but I would need the authority to do that.
Are they still running,
Yeah.
to be clear, are they still running the store?
The store's no longer running anymore, no. It's gonna be run online
Online.
now, and with that, there will be no need for anybody to really oversee it, and the funds that come in wouldn't be coming into the school store, it would be coming into the district.
Those kids did such a nice job with that school store.
Well, they're gonna still have more opportunities to other things.
Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Everybody can hear you.
I'd like to make a comment. I've suggested for a long time. I mean, we have a marketing class in high school, and I never understood why the marketing class didn't work with the school store to learn how to actually market and sell and advertise and post products. So every time I asked that question, it was, never an answer by the previous administration. So why don't we look into that? Why isn't our marketing class linked up and actually doing some hands-on marketing as opposed to working out of the book?
And I
Why
think,
are our business classes involved in the school store?
and I agree with that 100%, and I think you need to create a logo and more merchandise. Remember we talked about that?
At one time, the wood shop was making products to actually list for sale. But then that fell by the wayside because there was never any connection between those 3 items, whether that was marketing, whether that was a school store, or the production of items.
So
And
how
I
do-
see an amazing opportunity there for kids.
How do you
to
start
get
that?
involved in all of those processes.
Well, that would be part of curriculum then, so that would go back to
9 through 12.
9 through 12 and Mr. Official.
One of the things we were looking at potentially next month with the athletics things to a school store and an online store as well. So as we start to look at branding the athletic programs, there'll be an opportunity to buy those things online. That's where a lot of places are going. They're going to online stores.
But it's long overdue here in
Yeah,
Pella.
it is.
You know, and I know you know that, cause that's one of the things I'm always, it's long overdue. We need to get our stuff out there.
And I think the young generation shops online.
I just
Yeah,
always assumed that our business students and our marketing clubs
They know.
already did this. Didn't they coordinate this before? I mean, it just seems like, I'm shocked that it hasn't been doing that.
Can they, how would you do that? Like, how did?
Well, Dr. Highland.
Well, I think that has to be part of, first of all, we have to set the idea of what are we actually going to have in the store? And that's some bigger questions, right? What is the merchandise that we're gonna have? Then I think once we get that, then we can certainly, I think the building principal could help dovetail those two things together, the marketing part, from the curricular part. But also, most of the merchandise that we're gonna sell is probably gonna be from athletics and
There are many schools that generate revenue based on products that they produce, either through art courses, graphic arts, things of that nature. There are many schools that actually produce their own items and put them in their own school store for sale.
Well, Center and HP are perfect examples of that.
Yeah, so, yeah. I'm 100%
I'm not saying we have to
that.
do it, but I'm just saying, we need leadership at the high school to explore those opportunities. So if we have a marketing class, I'm all in favor of them doing some marketing. If we got business classes, let's let them do a little bit.
I think everybody
Alright, just a
agrees, so
thought.
maybe Dr. Highland could get back to us on that.
Move that forward?
Well, we
Well,
have to.
you still wanna close
We
the
have
accounts,
to-
right?
yeah, we have to close.
We close them, yeah.
So how do we agree on where the money goes though?
That's gonna be the question. That.
Cause ski club, where are you gonna put that money? They wanna bring it back.
The board has the authority on this, we can decide where the money goes, that's what's in the policy of the bank.
Can you wake up for
So we have to decide that, you know, and I would move the ski clubs into a club, you know, leave the money in a pot available for a club, if anyone's interested in running it outside of the district, we could just transfer the money to that and be done with it.
Why don't you put that towards something in the gym down there,
Well, how about
that center,
we
buy
have-
an elliptical machine?
Well, the students have to drive the decision, so if it's money.
Ask her if they want like an elliptical new one.
Is there a wellness club? Just like
Well-
hockey, they
Wellness
they go to the
club.
wellness club?
So,
That needs money down there.
yeah, so we do have intramurals, and we also have the wellness, so that the wellness coordinator is a supplemental, so the money could go towards that.
That's right.
Something we could do.
Machines, you mean like an elliptical machine?
It could go to whatever.
Good, that was a great idea,
whatever
buy a
we
new
decide to
machine.
do.
We can decide, or you're
No.
saying students
I
are
said
in
the
the
students
club?
decide that.
Yeah.
Get back to us, let us know what they decide, would you
Okay.
please?
Sounds good.
We'll make recommendations.
Yeah,
and then
okay.
we'll give them to you. The next thing is Neopost quote.
Go ahead, John.
It's a continuation of an existing contract that's expiring
He
in
said
December.
1,600.
There's two parts of that quote on there, there's one for a shredder, and there's one to continue the mailing services. We have shredders in the district, if we want shredders, we can lease them for a day or a week at a time. So, we're not interested in the shredder, that's on the quote, so, disregard that. The other part is the mailing machines, we need to have those, and they're just a continuation of existing quote. The price is $3 a month higher than it was in the existing contract for both.
What do you need in a mailing machine? Everything's digital. What do you mail?
We mail a ton of stuff.
Okay.
A ton of stuff. Our postage is $1,500 a month.
$1,500 a month? Like, what's a ton of stuff though, just curious?
Um,
Bills are electric, is it done on computers?
The bills we pay are all done by check, by an actual physical check. Except the ones we pay for out of credit card. Now, we've been using the P card more and more because it's more money back to us, but most of the bills we pay are still done by a hand check.
Wow, I soft at that. Okay, you need it, you need it.
Okay, okay, move that forward?
$3 a month more, I'm fine.
Yeah, go move it forward.
Thank you. Steve
All right,
Mason?
and yeah, just one more thing, John, we got some good numbers coming in from the, final numbers for the 18-19 budget, the budget we passed last June 2018 for this school year. John, you wanna elaborate on this? budget?
Yeah, I wanna share some good news, some real good news.
coming in every day.
So, performance-wise for the 18-19 school year, the numbers are coming in. They're not final numbers yet, but I think the revenues are about as close to final as they could be. And based on the expenditure and revenue, numbers for the 18-19 school year, we're gonna balance our budget. So
Yeah.
that's really.
That's a real good positive, yeah.
So that's an actual budget that is balanced. Our revenues came in very strong, and I'll send you some detail on this so that you can see which particular line items we performed well on. But primarily, the real estate revenue, we did about $300,000 better than we anticipated. That was a slight tick in the percentage, slight tick, of people paying their taxes. The amount we turned over was less than $1 million. That's the first time that it's been that way in a while. And on top of that, the Longwood arrangement was not in the budget, and then that was another $140,000. So,
Pretty good.
And interest on our investments was really, that did phenomenal this year. It was about $300,000. We didn't expect anywhere near that. At one point in time, the interest rate was 0.1. Now it's 2.2, 2.3, and that's holding. So that was another $200,000 to the good. And the last thing was, last year, the auditors allowed us to book revenue for PESers, because we were booking the expense for the July and August months for the teachers. We made our case that money, even though, because we're expending it, we should also, because we get reimbursed for PESers, be able to book the revenue, and they agreed to that, which caused us to perform better in the budget, about another $300,000 in revenue. So we did about $1 million in total better than we budgeted for, and all the reasons we understand why. Everything else was pretty much just heading right to the number. We decided not to draw down any access funds and let that build for this year, so we could have more for next year.
That's good,
Which
yeah.
is very good.
Very good.
And expense-wise, we turned out we didn't really need any of the contingency, and so we didn't really draw on that. It was $400,000 there. Fantastic. And the other big lever on expenditures that didn't happen was when we brought back furloughed people, none of them came back. So we didn't have to pay that daily rate. We just had to pay a regular sub rate, which was huge. The fact that we didn't bring those people back at their daily rates, because with a furlough, if they come back and sub a day, they get their daily rate. They all chose not to do that, but we planned for that. So that's about another $300,000 there. So at the end of the day, we're going to have surplus for the 18-19 school year. It's looking anywhere between $400,000 and $600,000. Once we get those numbers
So,
firmed
hey,
up.
John, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
So I can barely hear, so I'm sorry if you've already said this, but, so based on the numbers, the way it looks right now, you're projecting a balanced budget, and that would be with no tax increase, correct?
Well, we raised taxes for the 18-19 school year, so there was a tax increase for that particular year. That doesn't.
I can't hear you.
He said there was a tax increase for 18-19.
Yeah, 'cause remember we passed the budget last year, that 18-19 budget with a real
The
estate
tax
increase,
increase?
yeah. That was last year's budget, June.
Last year's budget,
Yeah.
okay. Yep.
Yeah, this is the actual numbers that are coming in now. They'll be done by the end of October.
End of October?
Great.
Yeah.
You'll
Well,
give
the
us
audited
a final
numbers.
update then.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
and I'll send you an update on where we stand with both revenues and expenditures.
So what kind of surplus are you projecting?
I'm gonna say 600,000. And I would also say that whatever we surplus out, we move it over into the capital projects account. Like, we can actually create